Hello, my name is Joshua Mugabi. I welcome you to topic 11.1, Inheritance. Our learning outcome D. Understand and explain sex linkage in humans. We are going to look at learning activity in groups. Learners research on, discuss and explain sex linkage using relevant examples. Ensure that individuals explain using annotated diagrams. Item 1. Sex linkage in humans. We are going to look at family observation. In a family, several male members are colorblind, but no female member is colorblind. So we have our diagram here, and it is giving us different combinations. We shall come back here later. Tasks. Name the type of inheritance shown. They want us to name the type of inheritance shown. So let's come back to our diagrams here and we try to see what is taking place. Let's look at the parents here. When you look at the parents, you will see that the father has X in the box, meaning that that X has the gene of color blindness. And if you look at the mother, XX, these are normal. So now here it means that this X from the father is always given to the daughters. So all the daughters, when they get that X, they are going to become carriers. They will carry the gene of color blindness. But the father only gives the Y to the boys, and the X comes from the mother, meaning that the normal X from the mother will go to the boy, and the Y will go to the boy. So the boys will be unaffected in such a situation. When we come to the second scenario, you will see that now the affected X is with the mother. One of the X has a colorblind gene and the other one is normal. But if you look at the parent is X, it is also normal. And this X of the father goes to the girls. And the girls will either get an X which is normal from the mother, and that girl will be unaffected. If the girl gets the normal X from the mother and the normal X from the father, that girl will be unaffected. But if the girl gets a sex-linked gene on the affected chromosome, and she also gets a gene and a chromosome which is normal, X chromosome, that girl is going to become a carrier. Now here, for the boys, they get their X from the mother. So if a boy gets a normal X, without color blindness gene, that boy is going to be unaffected. The boy who gets the X with color blindness gene, that boy will be affected. So that is what is happening in these two scenarios. When the sex-linked gene is on the mother, the boy will be affected, and the girl, one of the girl will be a carrier. But if the father is the one who carries the color blindness on the X chromosome, the girls are going to become carriers and the boys will be unaffected. So here we say that the inheritance shown is sex-linked inheritance. It is called sex-linked inheritance, meaning that the gene which is responsible for the expression of color blindness is linked to the sex chromosome, and that is the X chromosome. Explain why more males than females are affected. They want to explain why more males than females are affected. Now, here we can see that the gene for color blindness is found on the X chromosome. And the males have only one X chromosome. So they have XY. So the trait will show if the gene is present. For example, here, when you look at this point here, the father is having the gene. But the issue here is that this gene is on the X chromosome. And this X chromosome will never go to the boy if it is coming from the father. It will go to the daughters. Therefore, you will find that the daughters are going to become carriers, but they are not going to be affected. Why? Because they can get a normal X from the mother. And color blindness, being a recessive trait, it can only express itself when it has both X that are got a colorblind gene. But since it is only one gene, which is on the X chromosome coming from the father, and from the mother they are getting another X chromosome which is normal, therefore they cannot show the colorblindness trait, because the normal X from the mother is going to suppress the affected X that is coming from the father. But when it comes to the male will only get one X from the mother. And if that X is affected, then the boys will have color blindness because they have only one X and one Y. So if the X is having the color blindness gene, that gene is going to express itself because there is no other X chromosome that can suppress it. That's why we say the males have only one X chromosome. So their combination is XY. So if it is found that this X is affected, the color blindness trait is going to express itself because the Y cannot suppress the color blindness trait from expressing itself unless if they had an XX, because this X would suppress the other X, but because it is Y, it cannot suppress the color blindness on the X gene. So the trait will show because there is only one gene present on the X chromosome. Explain why more males than females are affected. We are still on this one, why more males than females are affected. Like we have said, that if the affected X chromosome comes from the mother, like the way we are seeing here, this affected chromosome is going to go to this boy, and the boy will get the Y from the father. And because the boy has got X which is affected and Y which is normal, this boy is going to be affected because the color blindness gene is on the X chromosome, and another chromosome the boy has is a Y chromosome. So this gene is not going to be suppressed. It will express itself. What of the girl? If the girl gets this affected X from the mother, and the girl gets a normal X from the father. Now, because of the presence of a normal X, the normal X will suppress the color blindness gene on this X chromosome. Therefore, this color blindness trait will not express itself. The girl will be a carrier, but will not show the color blindness trait. Therefore, because for the girls, for them, they have another normal X, which can suppress the color blindness gene on the affected X, there they cannot be affected by color blindness, but they will become carriers. So here we see that the females, they have two X chromosomes, making it X and X. So the normal gene, which is on this X chromosome, will mask the affected gene. So this gene here on this normal chromosome is going to suppress the gene here from expressing itself. So this gene here is going to be suppressed, or what we call being masked. It will not be allowed to show color blindness because of the presence of a normal gene on this normal X chromosome. Item 2. We are still on sex linkage in humans. This time we are going to look at the definition of sex linkage. Alana asks what sex linkage means. Here we have our diagram, and this one is showing the X chromosome and the Y chromosome. Task: define sex linkage. Define sex linkage. Sex linkage is the inheritance of traits controlled by genes located on the sex chromosome, and usually that chromosome is the X chromosome. So when we talk of sex linkage, this is a type of inheritance of a trait, a character like color blindness, and this trait is controlled by a gene which is located on the sex chromosome, and the sex chromosome is usually the X chromosome. So we have two chromosomes here. We have the sex chromosome and we have the Y chromosome. But usually the color blindness gene is always located on the X chromosome, but not on the Y chromosome. So this gene that controls a trait like color blindness is located on the sex chromosome, which is the X chromosome, and therefore this type of inheritance is called sex linkage. The gene controlling a trait is located on the sex chromosome, and usually that sex chromosome is the X chromosome. Item 3. We are still looking at sex linkage in humans. Let us emphasize on chromosome symbols. A teacher uses symbols to explain sex linked inheritance. Sex linked inheritance. So we have our diagram here, which is showing a female with XX. One of the sex chromosome has a normal gene, and another sex chromosome has a colorblind gene. Then we have the parent, who is a male. He has the X chromosome with a normal gene, and they are going to cross to get offsprings. Tasks: use the symbols below to explain sex linkage. Normal vision is due to normal X chromosome. Color blindness is due to a gene of color blindness linked on the sex chromosome X, and Y chromosome does not carry the gene. So the female becomes a carrier if she has a normal X chromosome and a X chromosome which has got a color blindness gene. This female will become a carrier. But this female will have a normal vision. When it comes to the male, the affected male has an X chromosome which has got the color blindness gene and a Y chromosome. So this gentleman is going to become color blind. So when you come here to our diagram here, you'll see here we have the female who is having a colorblind gene XC, and when she gives this colorblind to this boy is going to become colorblind. But when she gives this colorblind gene to a girl, because the girl inherited a normal gene X chromosome from the father, this girl is going to become a carrier, but with normal vision. The males show the trait with only one affected X chromosome. So we have said that if the mother hands over this colorblind sex chromosome to the boy, and the boy receives the Y chromosome from the father, this boy is going to have the colorblind trait. Why? Because the boy has got one affected X chromosome, which is going to express itself, and the trait will be shown. But when it comes to the female needs two affected X chromosomes to show the trait. But when you look here, this affected X chromosome will go to this girl, but the girl is going to get a normal X chromosome from the father. And when she gets the normal X chromosome from the mother, she will become a carrier, but with normal vision. Why isn't she colorblind? For her to be colorblind, she needs two affected X chromosomes to show the trait. But since she has only one affected X chromosome and the other one is normal, she will have normal vision, but she will be carrying the affected chromosome. That's why we call her a carrier. But she will not suffer from color blindness. She's not going to show the trait of color blindness. Item 4, still on sex linkage in humans. We are going now to look at a carrier mother case. Let's look at a carrier mother case. A mother has a normal vision, but has a color blind son. So we have our diagram here. We are having a mother here who is having normal vision, but the mother is a carrier because she has the affected X chromosome. Therefore, the mother is passing over that X chromosome to the boy. And when she passes it over to the boy will get the Y chromosome from the father. And this boy is going to become a colorblind male. Task. Explain how this is possible. The mother is a carrier, meaning she's heterozygous. When you look at the mother's genotype, she has the X chromosome, which is normal, and the affected chromosome. Therefore, she's called a carrier because she has two different chromosomes. One is normal X chromosome, another one is affected X chromosome, which we are calling heterozygous. She carries one normal X and then also one affected X chromosome. So when you look at the mother, she has one normal X chromosome and one affected X chromosome. So when she gives this one, the affected chromosome, to the boy is going to become colorblindness. And when she gives this X, normal X, to another boy, this boy will be unaffected, will be a normal boy. So here we say that the son inherited the affected X chromosome from the mother. We are seeing our son here with the affected sex chromosome. And this chromosome came from the affected chromosome from the mother. So the child or the boy inherited this affected X chromosome from the mother. And since males have only one X chromosome, the trait will be expressed. So when you look at the chromosomes of the male, they have XY. And because they have only one X, and this X is already affected, therefore the trait is going to express itself, and the boy will be color blind. Item 5. Sex linkage in humans. We want to look at hemophilia example. We are going to look at hemophilia example. Learners are told about hemophilia, a condition where blood does not clot properly. We have our diagram here. which is going to explain hemophilia. We shall come back to that. Tasks. State whether hemophilia is sex-linked. State whether hemophilia is sex-linked. The answer is yes. Hemophilia is a sex-linked trait. So let us try to look here. If we look on our diagram here, we can see we have the father who does not have hemophilia, X, Y. And we have the mother here who is a carrier of hemophilia gene. Let us take this green gene to be an X chromosome that has got hemophilia trait or gene. So the mother is a carrier, but for her, she's not showing the hemophilia trait. So meaning that hemophilia is a sex-linked trait. Now when she starts distributing, the girls, half will be carrier and half will be normal. But when it comes to the boy, one of the boy will be hemophilic and the other boy will be normal. Explain why it mainly affects males. Explain why it mainly affects males. The gene is on the X chromosome. Males express the trait if the affected gene is present. For the females, usually become carriers unless they inherit two affected genes. Let's now look at our Punnett square here. We have this symbol here. This symbol represents the male parent, and these are the chromosomes of the male parents. And this symbol here represents the female parent, and these are the sex chromosomes. The male is having XH. We are going to take capital H to be normal, and Y. Then the female has X capital H and X small h. We shall take this small h to be the affected X chromosome. So when you look at the crosses, this one and this one, they will give us a normal girl. If it is this one and this one, they are going to give us a girl who is a carrier. And if we have Y going with this X, which is normal, we are going to get a boy who is normal. If we take this Y and this affected X chromosome, we are going to get a hemophilic boy. Why? Because for the male, the trait expresses itself if there is an affected gene. So here we have an affected gene, and it is with Y. Therefore, this one is going to be a hemophilic son. Well, as if you look at this one, he has a normal X chromosome. Therefore, is not going to be affected. And for the female, usually they become carriers unless they inherit two affected genes. So when you look at this girl, she has the normal and the normal. Therefore, she's an affected daughter. When you look at this girl here, she has the affected X chromosome and the normal. Therefore, she will become a carrier, but not a hemophilic. Because for the female, it can be only expressed when they inherit two affected genes. But if they inherit one affected gene, they become carriers. So this girl is going to become a carrier, but not affected by the hemophilia. We are still on sex linkage item 6. We want to compare males and female. Comparing males and females. Task. Complete the table. Complete the table. So we have our sex, which is a male and a female. And the chromosome for the male is XY. And the chromosome for the female is XX. Now, we want to give the expression of sex-linked trait. If it is XY, what is the expression for sex-linked trait? For XY expresses trait if X carries affected gene. If the X chromosome carries the affected gene, then that is when the trait is going to be expressed. But when it comes to the female, they are usually carriers, and they express the trait only if both X chromosomes are affected. If it is only one X chromosome affected, then they will become carriers. But if both X chromosomes are affected, then they will become affected. That is for the female. Item 7. We are still on sex linkage in humans. This time we are addressing a misconception. Alana believes that sex-linked traits come only from fathers. They believe that sex-linked traits come only from the father. We are going to use our diagram here, but we shall come back later. Tasks. State whether the statement is true or false and explain. They want us to state whether this statement is true or false, and then we give our explanation. The statement is false because sex-linked traits are often inherited from the mother, who may be a carrier. The father passes the Y chromosome to the sons, not the X chromosome. So because the learner was believing that sex-linked trait come only from the father, and we say this is false. Why? Because if it is a boy, the sex-linked trait is often inherited from the mother, who could be a carrier. Why? Because for the boy, the sex X chromosome comes from the mother, and the sex-linked trait is on the X chromosome. The father only passes the Y chromosome to the son and not the X chromosome. So if it is the sex X chromosome which is affected and the boy is affected, the X chromosome comes from the mother. Therefore, the statement cannot be correct to say that sex-linked traits come only from the father. Item 8. We are still on sex linkage in humans. We want to emphasize on application and communication. Explain sex linkage to a younger learner using a simple language. So we are going to use our diagram here. Our task: explain sex linkage to a younger learner using simple language. They want us to explain sex linkage to a younger learner using just simple language. We say that some traits are found on the X chromosome, and the boys have one X, so they show the trait easily. For the girls, they have two X chromosomes, so they mainly carry the trait without showing it. So here, the mother is a carrier, but the mother is not showing the trait because one of the X chromosome is normal. And we have the boy here is hemophilic. Why? Because he has one X which is affected, and the other one is Y. And for that reason, this boy becomes a hemophilic. But when you come to this girl, She also has one X chromosome affected, but she's not hemophilic. She is a carrier. Why? Because she has got another normal X chromosome. She can only express the trait if she acquires both affected chromosomes. But she has one affected and another one is normal. So for her, she becomes a carrier. What of the boy? The boy has only one X and the other one is Y. And because the X is affected, then the trait is going to express itself and the boy is going to become hemophilic. Let's now go to key learner takeaway. We are saying that sex-linked traits, these are controlled by genes on the X or the sex chromosome. We have also said that most sex-linked traits are on the X chromosome, and that the males are more likely to express sex-linked traits. For the females, they are often carriers. Now, at this point, our learners now can define sex linkage correctly. They can use X and Y symbols accurately. They can explain why males are more affected. And they can give examples like color blindness. They can give hemophilia. And they can correct misconception respectively. So if you have not yet got all these concepts, please go back at the beginning of the video and make sure you get them properly. Thank you for participating in topic 11.1, which is inheritance. We have been looking at learning outcome D. Understand and explain sex linkage in humans. Our learning activity has been in groups. Learners research on, discuss and explain sex linkage using relevant examples. Ensure that individuals explain using annotated diagrams. Visit me at Mugabi Joshua Biology on YouTube. Please don't forget to like, to share, and to subscribe. Thank you.